Alright, Beacon of Hype back with you, and continuing on with our playthrough of Who Killed Sam Rupert. Last time we left you, we had gotten around to a couple of the in-depth interviews with 3 suspects. I actually went ahead and, just to save some time and so everybody having to endure me going through the press conferences like last time, I actually went ahead and I started over a new game and jumped through the press conference and got us here, where we're going to interview 3 more of the likely suspects. I picked the 3 ladies in this instance for our in-depth interviews. We have Mimi Andrews, the girlfriend of Sam; Lily Rupert, obviously Sam's wife; and his assistant at the restaurant, Maria. So we figure we'll go through these, kind of bang out all of the in-depth interviews. You'll probably see at one point there'll be a jump, and that'll be for the 2 remaining interviews with Edward Talaman and the bartender Ed Ferran. Gonna hit Mimi here. You'll have to forgive me, I'm kind of doing double duty here. Hopefully there's no more audio interruptions while this is recording. Again, I'm a newbie to this whole YouTube thing, so I'm just kind of winging it as I go whilst doing my daily life as well. So hopefully this is pleasing to some people. I've seen a few views on here. Obviously I get the whole necessity for, make sure I tag things properly and all that. Hopefully it'll get some more visibility as the weeks go on. But here we go with the questions from Mimi. When you and Mr. Rupert had dates, would you ever drink good wine together?
Yes. Sam liked good wine.
Just going to see if I can increase the volume just a tad. Not a lot, because the music can be a little bit much. I just want to make sure we don't go too crazy with the volume. Okay. And did you have a particular wine that you enjoyed? A sentimental favorite?
I wouldn't say there was one particular favorite. Perhaps Chateau Margaux. It's a red Bordeaux.
What were you wearing last night?
You mean when I took Sam to see real estate? A blue wool mini dress. Sam likes short skirts.
It is interesting during the initial interview where Mimi definitely downplayed any type of romantic relationship with Sam. Said that they were just very good friends and that she would look out for real estate deals for him, and didn't really mention anything about their intimacy, which is worth noting, I believe. It says here, there's a record of 4 phone calls that were made from your residence last night to Sam Rupert's private line in his office. Why did you omit them from your first interview?
They were private, personal, a matter between the 2 of us.
Kind of scary stare there. It says our records show that the 4th phone call lasted 7 minutes. By our reckoning, this call took place within a half hour of Mr. Rupert's murder. What did you talk about?
I had come to a decision and I wanted to talk to Sam about it. I don't have to tell you anything else without my lawyer. This has nothing to do with his death, and I don't have to tell you anything.
Getting very pushy. Did you kill Sam Rupert?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Do you know who killed him?
No, I don't.
Very helpful. And here, this is where they have opinions of all the other suspects. It says, give me your opinion of Abelina Casados.
I'd love to, but I don't know who you're talking about.
Sort of makes sense, given she probably didn't have too much of an inkling on all of the staff that worked at the restaurant. Can you give me your opinion of Maria?
Smart, reserved, shrewd. I think she had a crush on Sam. We used to laugh about it sometimes.
Interesting note. Can you give me your opinion of Blake Ferran? I said Ed Ferran. I don't know where Ed came from. I'm thinking Edward Talaman. But yeah, the bartender Blake.
He's the head bartender. He caused Sam endless amount of grief. Sometimes he would borrow money and he would ask for it, and sometimes he wouldn't. I think Sam looked on Blake as a version of himself who hadn't done as well.
Interesting.
Louis' a sweetheart, but he doesn't like me. Jealous. He wanted Sam for himself.
Oh, there's another little side note. There's a possibility now that we're hearing both Maria, the assistant, and Louis, the maitre d' of the restaurant, both apparently had feelings for Sam. It's David Sturgeon.
The few times I met him, he seemed nice. He was playing dirty pool, though, with Sam on this contract issue. I wouldn't put this whole thing past him.
And David was the initial target of Mimi in our first interview. She seemed to really want to point the finger at him. And as for her opinion on Sam's wife, Lily.
I haven't any opinion. We only met once at a fundraising event, and that's all I know.
Okay. Have you ever heard of a man named Edward Talaman?
No, I have not.
That's not shocking. It says, can you explain the presence of your fingerprints at the crime scene as well as the stairwell leading to it?
I went down there yesterday to find Sam. He was talking to Maria.
All right. That's all the questioning for Mimi. Let's go to Mrs. Rupert. Any interaction with her is always intriguing because she just seems so stone cold and unaffected by almost everything that's going on around her. But Mrs. Rupert, did you and your husband ever discuss divorce?
Yes, we discussed it periodically.
Not shocking. Had you and your husband discussed divorce recently?
Yes, we discussed it last week. We agreed at the end of our talk to what we always agreed to. Either of us was free to go. I think my husband liked the illusion of his freedom. After 10 years, I knew better than to think he'd act on it.
To think over almost a decade of being cheated on by your spouse after months into the marriage and still sticking around. I don't know. Did you know that your husband purchased a pink diamond solitaire engagement ring recently?
No.
That may be the most animated surprise reaction we've gotten out of her yet. So it's almost like she almost got comfortable with the idea that he wasn't going to go anywhere. Despite him having these flings, it seemed like she thought that his flag was, for lack of a better term, firmly planted on her land. Mrs. Rupert, is there anyone you suspect of having killed your husband?
Have you asked his most recent girlfriend? Sam always got tired of them after about 18 months. Maybe the ring was for someone new. Maybe his girlfriend could tell and she decided to kill him. Loving Sam could be the motive for a lot.
Well, apparently not enough motive to divorce him. Said, Mrs. Rupert, did you kill your husband?
I think I better get my lawyer here if I'm going to be a suspect.
And very cold response and didn't even deny it. Mrs. Rupert, what can you tell me about Louis Perez-Lacey?
Louis is a lovely man. One of Sam's only employees that we've ever had to the house.
There's an interesting note. Of all the people that worked with Sam at the restaurant, We now know that Louis A apparently had feelings for Sam beyond just a employee-employer relationship, but also has been to Sam's house as a guest. So it says here, Mrs. Rupert, what can you tell me about Maria Campbell?
She was invaluable to Sam. He mentioned that a lot. I don't know her very well.
And about good old Blake.
I believe he was Sam's head bartender, but I don't know him.
And what can you tell me about Abelina?
She's the woman who found Sam's body. She seems very nice. I think she's terribly upset by this.
And about David. Yep.
You've used an hour of time, Detective. 5 hours left.
Well, his cooking is wonderful. I don't know much beyond that. We met formally a few times. And as I mentioned, he was trying to leave his contract early. That sort of thing in someone that age takes a lot of courage.
See, I feel like that at some point during this production, they may have mixed up some of the interviews, because in the initial interview with Lily Rupert, at no point does she ever mention David Sturgeon as a suspect. Nor does she mention the whole issue as far as the contract, the fight that they'd had and all of that. Mimi Andrews mentions it. Maria mentions it. A few people that work at the restaurant have mentioned it, but not Lily. So it's interesting that they included that in this questioning. It says, all right, this is the interesting one. What can you tell me about your husband's current girlfriend, Mimi Andrews?
Obviously, they are close. She does something in real estate. She's the right age and the right look. I'd love to tell you about some terrible character flaw, but I can't. Unless adultery counts.
Yeah, I'd say adultery counts as a character flaw. But again, even then, that does not seem like much of a phased reaction. Have you ever heard of a man named Edward Talman?
He gives generously to literacy causes. That's my real interest. Well, that's unusual for someone in the film business. He eats at Sam's frequently. I've only met him at fundraisers, though, never at the restaurant.
Alright, so then we got Maria in this third and final interview block here. She looks kind of nervous in that picture. Did you consider yourself close to your boss?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Maybe not close enough for her liking, who knows? Can you tell us who has keys to the building?
Besides Sam and myself, Louis has a set of keys, so does Blake. David, of course, and Abelina. And Miss Andrews may have a set, I'm not sure.
Does Lily Rupert have a set of keys to the building?
No, I don't believe she does. Although I'm sure Sam kept a set at home.
The freeze frames on some of these pictures, even if it's part of the interview, is just, she looks like deer in headlights here. Can you tell us why we found your fingerprints on Mr. Rupert's tie the morning that the body was found?
Sometimes Sam changed ties here at the restaurant. He kept a supply in his office. He asked me to fetch him one last night.
Can you explain the two hairs that have been identified as yours that were found at the crime scene?
I'm sure if you looked, you'd find my hairs everywhere throughout the restaurant. It falls out easily. It's a little embarrassing.
And what sort of duties might you perform in the wine cellar for Mr. Rupert? It sounds very innuendo-based.
We tasted wine there together. If a salesman had a new wine that he wanted Sam to buy, Sam always asked my opinion.
Sometimes he would open a good older bottle of French wine and we'd drink and discuss it.
All right. What were you wearing yesterday, Miss Campbell?
A white linen blouse, a navy skirt, and a red sweater.
Okay. And how long have you worked for Mr. Rupert?
It would have been 3 years next month.
Okay. The inevitable question, did you kill Mr. Rupert?
No.
Very short and emphatic. Is there anyone you suspect of killing Mr. Rupert?
I already told you about David Sturgeon. David is the only person I know of who had a motive.
Oh, there you go. That one makes more sense because she did mention the whole contract dispute and everything in her initial interview. So she's yet another person that's pointed the finger at David. Do you think Blake Ferrin, who was recently caught stealing money from the bar, had a motive to kill Sam?
Well, I thought that problem had been resolved.
Why didn't you tell us that Blake had stolen money from the bar?
Sam wasn't going to press charges. Blake was simply going to pay the money back.
Okay. What's your opinion of Abelina?
I think she's a very hard worker and she does a good job.
Very politically correct answer. Opinion of Lily, Mrs. Rupert.
I didn't have much contact with Mrs. Rupert. Not enough to form an opinion.
Okay. And how about Mimi?
She was Sam's girlfriend. What else can I say? I'm not supposed to have an opinion on my married boss's girlfriend.
Meanwhile, that might have been the most animated response we've gotten out of her. Even the way she kind of leaned into when she said this, she was Sam's girlfriend. Kind of like a little hint of jealousy. Since you've worked for Mr. Rupert, how many other girlfriends has he had? I don't know if they had to put, quote, other girlfriends in quotes like that, but alright.
4.
4. Okay. What is your opinion of David?
He's an outstanding chef who doesn't know his place.
And your opinion of Blake?
Blake is nice enough. Bit of an overgrown boy. He still hangs out with guys and plays pool. Talks about babes. He calls them snappers. He was having trouble with child support, but that's why he stole. He's not a drug user.
I don't know why I had to mention that he's not a drug user in order to justify why he stole. Do you know anything about Edward Talman?
Well, he once bought a bottle of wine from us, 1947 Chateau Margaux. It cost over $4,000. Sam and I would go over the receipts daily, so I would see things like that. I think it was the only wine in that category that we ever sold. I know Sam said he was hoping no one would ever buy it so that he could drink it himself.
Funny that she doesn't mention the whole blow up the night before. Only knows him as a high-end wine purchaser. And what is your opinion of Louis?
Well, we had a friendly, professional relationship. I don't know him personally. I know he adored Sam. He used to bring him little presents, tell him jokes, things like that. Louis is gay, and I think he was a little in love with Sam. Most people were.
That little line at the end, most people were in love with Sam. Does that include you? Just makes you wonder. Okay, so now, with my trusty editing pause and resume buttons, We're now back with the last two remaining in-depth interviews for Blake and Edward. I'm going to start with Blake Ferran, the bartender. All right. Mr. Ferran, do you like to drink wine?
Personally, I'm a beer man myself.
Let's see if... Hopefully the volume's coming through okay on this end for you guys. Like, I'm right here, so I can always, pick up what they're saying, but I just want to make sure it's coming through okay on the device's end of things. So has there ever been a time when you tasted wines with Mr. Rupert?
Sure. Well, he wanted to try out something new for the wine list. He'd have me try it. Louis, sometimes David. It would come up maybe a couple of times a month.
Okay. So there wasn't any one particular person that Sam would pick to taste wines with. It was kind of a... sounded as though it was across the board with Blake, David, Maria, Louis. It's interesting how Maria says that Sam was training her. Meanwhile, all these other people are doing the exact same thing that she was. Have you ever had a falling out or a serious argument with Mr. Rupert?
No, not that I remember.
Nothing there. And what about the money that was missing from the bar receipts?
Now, wait a minute. That was between Sam and me. We worked it out. It was like a loan. I'm paying it off.
Could your so-called loan actually have been embezzling?
What? I thought you were trying to solve a murder. What are you, the morals police?
Okay, Mr. Ferran, did you kill Sam Rupert?
No, for Christ's sake. It was only $300. I told you we were working out a payoff. I didn't kill him.
And do you know who killed Sam?
Yeah, I'm selling my secret knowledge to the highest bidder.
Another, kind of like David's interview when we asked him if he killed him, we got a very, very sarcastic response, but thankfully for their sake, it's sarcasm to the degree that you can easily spot it as opposed to wondering if they just confessed. So, Mr. Ferran, can you give me an opinion of David Sturgeon?
David can be okay. Bit of a prima donna in the kitchen, but he's all right. On the outs a little with the boss, I heard, but I think they worked it out.
And his opinion of Mimi?
Out for herself, ultimately. Extremely attractive. You know what I mean. Looks like $1 million, but you got the heart of a woman.
No. Well, I mean, you can't really argue with that. And his opinion of Abelina?
Yeah, she wouldn't hurt a mosquito.
And what's his opinion of Lily Rupert?
Long suffering.
Long suffering. Yeah, it's very accurate. Louis.
Louis okay. What the heck? Takes all kinds.
Okay, clearly I'll hopefully in post-production you'll hear just a bleep there. I did warn you in advance there were some choice words used in the early mid-90s that by today's standards won't fly probably on YouTube or anywhere else, so I'll have to do a little editing there. And Mr. Ferran, can you give me an opinion of Maria?
She's a bit of a weasel. Always looking and watching, you know what I mean? Judgmental. I get the distinct impression that she doesn't like it too much.
Have you ever seen Mr. Talman at the restaurant before last night? Yep.
Yeah, sure. He wasn't a regular. But, he used to stop in maybe twice a month. Yesterday was the first night I saw him perform, though.
will give this guy credit. He definitely, he got immersed in the character and threw some jokes in when he could. Mr. Fran, what were you wearing yesterday evening?
What I usually wear to work. White shirt, red wool vest, black pants, a good silk tie. Sam sometimes gave me his old one.
That kind of, I don't know, something like that. It ties in with Mimi's testimony during the questioning, how Sam looked at Blake as a version of himself that didn't do as well in life. It's almost like he tried to kind of do everything he could to keep Blake afloat, even when he wasn't able to keep himself afloat, So, yeah. So on to our last in-depth interview. Edward, what can you tell me about the wines you prefer?
I like the white burgundies the most. Montrachet, you can't beat that. Occasionally I drink a red Bordeaux.
He's very soft-spoken. I'm going to go ahead and increase the volume just a tad more. Wish we could do that in here somewhere, but unfortunately, again, this is early 90s Mac here we're talking about. Which red Bordeaux's are your favorite?
The true smooth on Rothschild. Like Oscar Wilde said, my tastes are simple only the best.
I use that line to this day. Mr. Talman, what were you wearing last night?
Navy blazer, jeans, and loafers.
I really hope his answers are coming through, guys. It said, I think navy jeans, something else, and loafers. But he's so soft-spoken. How often did you eat at Sam's?
As often as I could until last night. Once or twice a month. I spent most of my time on the other coast.
Okay. That matches up with other people's testimony, like Blake before said that he would be there a couple of times a month. Can you tell me anything about the staff at Sam's?
No, I don't know any of them personally. Until last night, I thought Louis, the maitre d', was a real pro, and the chef can cook, that's for sure. But the rest of them, I know nothing about.
Okay. Have you ever produced a murder mystery?
No, I'm not into that genre. I do westerns and a little sci-fi. Right now, I'm working on a kid's Christmas movie. Christmas is dead.
All right. Did you notice anything odd or strange about Sam's last night?
The surface.
Easy joke. Did anything in the parking lot catch your eye? I would assume by that point, if he was as pickled as he claims to be, then he probably didn't notice anything.
No. I'm sorry, I can't help you more.
All right. Is there anyone you suspect of murdering Sam Rupert?
I haven't a clue, and that's the God's truth. Maybe I should get my lawyer.
That's a very random thing. We didn't even ask him if he killed him in that question, but let's see what this one triggers.
You've used an hour of time, Detective. 5 hours left.
What do you think? I'm a moron? I work in the film industry. If I murdered him, do you think I would be so stupid as to admit it?
Stranger things have happened. Did you ever order a Chateau Latour when you were at Sam's? This ties up with Maria's answer that was given.
I might have. I can't remember. Can't you check the records or something?
Again, it's very odd that you'd think that even as successful as you might be in the film industry, if you paid $4,000 or more for one bottle of wine, I'd remember it. All right, so we are all done with our in-depth interviews. In the next installment, I'm going to go ahead and probably do a compilation, the same way I did with these interviews, with all of the different warrant applications, up until the very last one, where we will reveal who the killer is. So, with that said, this is Beacon of Hype. Thank you guys for watching. Please keep up the views, keep up the word of mouth if you can for subscribers, and feel free to keep logging in. I'm going to try to do this on a more frequent basis, and that way we can get through all the virtual murder cases in short due time. But as you know, sometimes life gets in the way of things, so while I'm going to try to do that, just bear with me and just kind of aim for maybe once or twice a week. We'll go for that, right? All right, again, Beacon of Hype, signing off.